thrilled to have him right here in person to talk about his 50 years in the association, as well as his new book called Character Carved in Stone, about the 12 core virtues of West Point that build leaders and produce success. He is none other than Senior Vice President of the Red Hot 8th place Orlando Magic. Pat Williams, good to see you, sir.
Rich, I'm so thrilled to be here. Nice to see this setup.
Thank you, sir.
What a studio. I mean, you can play every sport in the world in here.
We can pretty much do a little bit of that. It's you know, the one thing we can't do is shoot hoops. We do have a very low ceiling here.
But you could play a football game in here. You could probably take batting practice.
We could do that a little bit. We can roll some putts.
Play golf.
I know that. You being someone who lives in Central Florida knows all about
golf capital of the world.
It is indeed that. It is indeed that. So let's talk quickly about your Magic here first. A 6-game win streak. You guys are flat out in the mix currently. When obviously back in the day, they're an 8th place team, but that is a significant thing to be, obviously, in this day and age. Where did this 6-game win streak come from?
Well, it's a good question. We've been battling away all year. We've had our ups and downs, and suddenly, in the last several weeks, the team has caught fire. I don't think there was much of a shot at the playoffs even 6 weeks ago. But they're playing with great consistency and great focus. Give Coach Steve Clifford a lot of credit. We've been healthy. That's a big part of it. And the key here has been the defensive end. We've held clubs under 100 points by and large, which is tough to do in this current age where the ball is flying up from all angles every night. And the best part of it is the city of Orlando's gotten excited again about their Magic.
Yeah, I know.
You can feel it.
A game behind the Nets for 6th place, and a huge game tonight. The team half game in front of you are the Detroit Pistons, and the Heat's right behind with the Charlotte Hornets right behind all that. I mean, what do you think about the evolution of the game where three-pointers are better or viewed as a better shot than, say, a mid-range jumper or something like that?
Well, Rich, I'm enjoying it. I go back in this league to 1968, so I've seen every single possible evolution of the game.
Right.
These are the greatest athletes we've ever seen. These young men playing the game today from all over the world, by the way. There are 100 NBA players from other countries on rosters right now. But I love the way it is. There was a long period when the coaches had the tight rein, on the game and their teams and their players. But it's wide open now. Devin Booker goes for 50 again last night, and James Harden on any given night's going to get you 40 to 60, and I'm enjoying it immensely. Yeah,
I mean, you look at it; it is such more of a wide open game, and you talk about how best athletes on the planet. Now here comes Zion, and I know that obviously there are rules about talking or what have you, but I think he's coming out for sure. And I know you're a guy that drafted Barkley back in the day. Would you say that's the best comparison, or LeBron is a better comparison for what we're seeing as to who Zion could be?
Well,
he's
got some Barkley in him. He's got some Karl Malone in him. He's got some Sean Kemp in him. Maybe he's a combination of all of them. I first learned about him, Rich. My roots in sports go back to Spartanburg, South Carolina. I was the general manager of the Phillies Farm Club there in the mid to late 60s. That's where it all started for
baseball,
me. Yes.
Okay.
And so my friends in Spartanburg have been telling me about this high school phenom for a number of years. It's been kind of interesting to track. But the thing I like about him, well, he competes. And there's a wonderful joy about him on the court. You can tell he loves to play. He's a great team guy, and his teammates like him. So it's been great fun to watch him. But he's a combo platter that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I know. I guess why you're hearing like LeBron is more of maybe a comp because of just his size and the maneuvers that he can make are so difficult to stop. I mean, once he's going, you can't stop him.
Well, the big guy, and he's got the footwork of a ballet dancer. He handles the ball. He can bring it up court. And the fact that he's left-handed doesn't hurt.
Right.
That's an adjustment for people to kind of get used to the lefties. But Barkley was that way, Rich. He'd take the ball off the board, dribble out of traffic, pick up speed at midcourt, put it behind his back, make a dazzling pass to somebody on the wing, or Charles would keep it himself and go up and slam it through. And I mean, and you came away saying, how can a guy that big and that huge do all that?
Right.
Well, Big Z can do it, and it's been fun to watch. He's been an attraction all winter long for all basketball fans.
What was Charles like coming out of college?
Say that again.
What was Charles like coming out of college?
Well, he was big. We had the 5th pick in that draft in 1984, and that was the Michael Jordan Olajuwon draft. We had made a trade years before with the Clippers, and we had their pick. It turned out to be the 5th pick in that draft. And this guy who didn't get a lot of coverage out of Auburn University, basketball people knew him, but not many others did. We brought him in. He was 6'4", Rich. That's it. And 292 pounds.
Come on.
Those were the dimensions. And we brought him in. We had a little workout with him. We sat him down and said, Charles, we're seriously interested in you, but we're concerned about this weight. We're going to bring you back in 2 months, right before the draft, and we'd like to see you down in the 250s. Well, we brought him back, and he weighed 292. And I said, Charles, let's have a serious talk here. Have you been eating recently before from the 6 major food groups? He said, yes, sir, Mr. Williams, and there are only 2 left. I mean, we knew this kid was off the charts. And I had to explain to him, I said, Charles, a balanced meal is not a Big Mac in both hands. Anyway, he came unsigned and played in the summer league that summer at Princeton. Mm-hmm. That was quite a telling sign. You know, he didn't have a contract yet, and he was terrific. So we spent the entire rest of the summer, 2 pages of weight clauses in his contract. But he came back to training camp as a rookie and weighed 252. And we never looked at those weight clauses again. Didn't have to.
Right.
Because Charles was all business. And he played his whole career. He's 6'4". So he's guarding on any given night Kevin McHale, down in the post.
Right.
Kevin Willis. I mean, he's guarding these 6'11", 7-foot power forwards his whole career. And yes, they gave him some problems, but he gave them a lot more, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of folks remember or forget he was nicknamed with the round mound of rebound coming out of Auburn.
That's right. There's never been any quite like Charles.
No, I mean, to this day. I mean, he's just as a human being. Pat Williams here on the Rich Eisen Show. What was the first time you met Shaq? When was the first time you met him?
Well, we won that lottery in '92, and everybody knew. I mean, that was not a hard decision. Alonzo Mourning was in that draft. Christian Laettner was in that draft. But everybody knew it was a Shaq draft. And we won the lottery, and his agent immediately started to play coy. Leonard Armato.
Yes.
Yes, we're very pleased for Orlando that it's very, very good for their franchise. And, he very coy. And we couldn't get him in to work him out or look at him or meet him. Finally, 2 days before the draft, word came that Shaq will come over for a visit. So he flew over with his father, Sergeant Harrison. Mm-hmm. And boy, he was everything you would expect a sergeant to be. And his younger brother, Jamal. And there they come on a private plane. And we got him in the car. I took Jamal over to our house to play all afternoon with our 18 children. That's not a misprint. And we just left him there all afternoon. And Jamal, they had sandwiches and all, and my wife was there overseeing it. And Jamal said, where the pickles be? Mm-hmm. We didn't have pickles for his... So Jill raced off to the store. I said, Jill, whatever it takes.
Yes.
Get the pickles.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we had Shaq and his father, touring around and meeting and going to the building, and we were on our best behavior. And then that night, the DeVos, the owners were there, and the coaches. We had a big room at the hotel set up for wonderful dinner. Shaq and his younger brother are down at the end of the table. Matty Gukas, our coach, and I are sitting right down at the end, and these two brothers are having a food fight. The DeVosses, the owners are this way, and Shaq and his brother, and they're flicking bread at each other and stealing food off their plates. And later I said, Matty, what did you think of that? Mm-hmm. What was your reaction to that? And he said, I didn't know whether to send them to their room or put them in quiet time, or I didn't know what to do with them.
Right.
But that was Shaq.
That is Shaq.
At that point, he was 20, Rich. Big kid, and he still is.
He's one of the greatest, nicest kids still to this day.
Like he's in his mid-40s now, or late 40s.
It was funny. We had him on our show in Atlanta at the Super Bowl because our set was right down from the inside the NBA set right there on the campus at Turner Sports. Pat Williams of the Orlando Magic here. And I watched him walk into our set, and we had a studio audience there. And I watched him walk into our set, and he ducked his head underneath the opening of the door of our set, but slapped his hand on the back and made it seem like he had just hit his head. And the whole place goes, ooh! And he just made it seem like he had just hit his head in front of everybody, like he was pulling a prank on every single person in the room.
I guess he's had practice on that
I was about to say, I think that it struck me as one of those things that he's probably been doing his entire life, but it's just... It's great to hear these stories. So let's talk about your book here while we have you here on the show, which we're thrilled to have you here, Pat. It's called Character Carved in Stone. You did not go to West Point, though, correct?
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
You did not. Why did you decide to write this book, Pat?
Rich, I got invited. Boo Corrigan was the athletic director there, and he invited me to come up and speak to the teams, their sports teams, at the start of the school year, just several years ago. About 600 Army athletes and men and women's teams, their coaches. That was a great experience. Afterwards, they gave me a tour of the campus, and very moving to do that. Anyway, we end up in a little park on the edge of the campus called Trophy Point. Looks out over the historic Hudson River. And I noticed in the park a bench, a stone bench, which isn't unusual. But 12 benches is unusual. 12 benches. And I said, I should take a closer look. I'm glad I did. Normally you would just see them and leave, but I looked closer, and at the end of one bench there was a word carved into the stone. And I kept checking the benches all the way down, and there was a different word carved into each bench. Words like courage and words like loyalty and integrity, responsibility, trust, those kind of words. And then my thought was, there's got to be a backstory here. Well, there was a backstory. The West Point class of 1934, on their 50th reunion, gave those benches as a class gift. And these men who had been through World War II, Korea, decided these were the 12 most important words they had learned in their careers and wanted to pass that on to future generations at West Point. That was the backstory. And then my reaction was, boy, this is a well-kept secret. I had never heard of that. Mm-hmm. And then I pitched it to the publisher. I said, I think we got a live one here. We could do a chapter on each word, and then let's try and find out West Point graduates who best modeled that word. And so that was the background. And then there was one other step. Who do we want to do the forward if we can get this rolling? Well, the West Point graduate that I knew immediately was Mike Krzyzewski, who is a dyed-in-the-wool West Point guy. And he had his career there. We later went on and coached there. So we asked Mike if he would do the forward, and he readily agreed. And he kept saying, I'm so honored, But, we were honored, and he did it. And so that's the end result, and the book is out, and we're quite encouraged with some early responses, Rich.
And how far back do you go with Coach K?
When we tried to hire him, when the Orlando Magic started up 30 years ago, I left Philadelphia in 1986 and moved to Orlando to try and help make that dream a reality and bring an expansion team to Central Florida. We were successful. And then right after that, you begin thinking, all right, now it's real. We got to get ready to play here soon. Who do we want to coach? Well, I approached Mike and told him we'd love to talk to him about coming to Orlando and being the coach. He declined.
Declined to even speak to you about it?
Yes,
or?
yeah.
So you didn't even entertain it.
We talked. He said, "I'm happy here. I'm going to stay here." So, well, since then, Rich, other pro teams have approached him. Boston, Lakers, at different times, and he's totally committed to Duke. But this was 30 years ago. Mike would have been in his early 40s then. He's early 70s now.
Yeah.
But he hadn't quite gotten to being legendary at that point, but very highly regarded then.
But he didn't even entertain the idea.
No.
Did you guys speak to Izzo recently too? Did you reach out to Izzo?
No, that was Cleveland.
It was Cleveland. Okay.
I think Tom's in the right place.
What makes you think a college coach could perform well? Obviously, we've seen Brad Stevens do very well with the Celtics, but it usually hasn't gone very well the other way, where college to the NBA.
Not recently. And the reason for that, Rich, is that we now have a large pool of assistant coaches to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Way back when I first started in 1968, there were no team had an assistant coach. Now every team has 7, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, right.
But so Jack Ramsey had come out of St. Joe's, and Joe Mulaney had come out of Providence, and Dick Motta had come out of Weber State, and John McLeod had come out of Oklahoma, and there was a whole wave. And the reason was, if you wanted a coach, there was nowhere else to look other than retired players, and there were some of them, or college. But now we've got this huge pool of assistants, and that's where a lot of the hiring takes place. So the college, it's a big adjustment. It's a huge jump. And by and large, Brad Stevens, I think, is kind of an anomaly.
He seems like it.
But he's done very well, and he's fit in well. But it's a whole different world, Rich. A college guy can be absolutely overwhelmed by this.
Last one for you. In the current day and age, do you need a super team to win a championship in the NBA now?
Oh, I think it helps. I think it helps to have 3 great, outstanding players.
But do you need it? Do you think you can build a team and win in this era where so many star players are saying, let's all get together potentially and form up a super team?
This is not really new. Back in our day, we went out and bought Julius Erving for $3 million.
Right.
And gave him a contract worth $3 million. Well, we already had George McGinnis, who was a legendary ABA player. He was there. And we had a young Darryl Dawkins, who we had brought out of high school, and he was there. And so and at the time, there was a lot of complaint. Oh, what are the Sixers doing? They're just muscling up here, and it's not fair. And, well, I thought it was fair. Our job was to put the greatest product out there. We had a vibrant Doug Collins on that team. It was a traveling road show. So it's nothing new to go out and get great players. You could argue with Red Auerbach. He had Cousy and he had all these guys, then whips that deal together, and now he brings along Bill Russell. It's not fair, Red. You've got too many players, and you're going to win all the time. Well, he won all the time, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's what it's about. In our business, well, Pat Riley said it well. There are 2 things in the NBA, winning and misery.
Right.
Said Pat. And let me tell you something, Rich. I have learned misery is awful. To go home after you've lost a game, it's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you think? We're never going to win another game. We may never win another game. Look at our schedule. We got this team and that team coming up. It's you better win. Because they have a strange custom in our business. After a certain period of time, if you have not produced enough W's. Did you see the paper this week? All the college coaches who are gone?
Yes, indeed. I know.
I mean, men and women, gone.
It's crazy, but at least
Too
your
many
team.
L's, Rich.
Well, your team hasn't had an L in a while. 6 straight wins. Good luck tonight against Detroit,
Yes.
and good luck down the road. And you're welcome here anytime, sir.
Well, I'm so happy we could get together, Rich. Thank you.
Right back at you. Right
Good.
back at you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Character Carved in Stone by Pat Williams.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.